Welcome into the Fade. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. She is Kelly Stewart, a.k.a. Kelly in Vegas. We are trying to make you some money as we roll into a fantastic weekend of games in college football, and not a bad one in the NFL either. We'll get to college football in a moment, but as we typically do, Thursday night football, we are taping on Wednesday night, FYI, because I'm headed to the beach for a couple of days. And so if these numbers change, this is where they were on Wednesday afternoon. Please blame Kelly if you're upset about the numbers. All right. She is at Kelly in Vegas on Twitter. It's all her fault if these move. Steelers, Bengals. We got Aaron Rodgers, Kelly, going up against Joe Flacco. Maybe not expecting to ever see this matchup again. I love the over here. The Bengals have been unable to stop anyone. I know Thursday Night Football has been an under fest. This number is low. Aaron Rodgers sneakily having a very good start to the season. The Bengals haven't been able to stop anybody. And I think the Steelers will pick them apart. I like the Steelers, but I think they're 5.5-point favorites or so, which feels a bit steep to me in a division game on a Thursday, all of those factors. So I am taking the over in this one, Kelly. What say you on Thursday Night Football?
You're right. It has been underfest and basically everything not named Sunday Night Football. So brave of you there to kind of buck that trend. And I'm going to buck another trend here. The Steelers have been awful as favorites, except for last week versus the Browns. But when favored by 4 points or more, Steelers 13, 26, and 1 against the spread. That's since 2017. That is less than 35%. It is gross. So if you want to lay points with the Steelers, by all means, but I have to throw that out there. And I think here's the real reality. Joe Flacco, we got to give him a little bit of credit. He had less than a week under his belt with this offense. And I think they put up a respectable effort and they covered the double digits versus Green Bay. And that's all we can really ask for. They were not going to win that football game, but they did get the cover. I'm a sucker for a primetime home dog, especially catching 5.5 points. Clay, I think the Bengals could win this game. So I'm going to take the 5.5 and maybe just for fun on Thursday night, sprinkle a little bit on the money line.
All right. Here are some others that I like in the NFL, Kelly. I might be the only person in America betting the Raiders. This number's huge. Against the Chiefs, it's a division game, approaching 2 touchdowns. I know the Chiefs have been playing better offensively. I know they get talent back at wide receiver. But I am taking the Raiders. I like the 49ers against the Falcons, Bucks, Lions over, Giants, Broncos over, the Panthers to beat the Jets, but my absolute favorite pick of the year. I have asked Laura Travis how much I am allowed to bet on this game, Kelly. I think the Patriots are going to bring a 2x4 to the Titans. Mike Vrabel on the road against the Titans. The number is right around 7.5. I think it's going to be 28-3, 35-6. I don't think this game is going to be remotely close. It is my favorite bet of the year in the NFL. If you're on the other side, you better just get out of the way, Kelly. The Titans are going to get lobotomized by the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel is going to take great joy in it. This is an awful football team, and Mike Vrabel is coming to town to make sure that nobody has a Merry Christmas in Nashville. All right, those are all my NFL picks. What do you like?
Clay, I don't blame you. Look, I understand why you want to lay it here with the Patriots, but I just feel like it's the squares play on the board, so I can't seem to stomach it, right?
Sometimes squares are right, Kelly. Sometimes the squares are right, and they are right here.
I'm going to quote our good friend Todd Furman. I think he told me this in like 2013. Good luck getting rich betting road favorites in the NFL. And guess what? Since then, road favorites have turned a corner in the NFL. And I don't blame you for understanding the narratives here. This has been a really good New England team, 4-1 straight up and against the spread in their last 5 games. That weird loss to Pittsburgh where they actually outgained them and had 9 more first downs and they somehow still lost. But we know what happens when teams fire their coach. They get fired up. Brian Callahan is out. And now you've got to make an argument that maybe with some new people, a rejuvenated game plan, some tweaks to the depth chart, I don't know. I get it. It is it's not probably good enough, and Cam Ward is probably going to continue to struggle. I understand your thought process there. But Clay, I'm on a couple of different teams here. I like Seattle, Monday Night Football, returning home after a nice road win at Jacksonville. This team's also 4-1 straight up and against the spread this season. They had that weird loss at home to Tampa where, frankly, that game probably could have won either way. But that was that one wonky defensive game where they gave up a ton of yards. And then now last week, they run it back. Jacksonville, they sacked Trevor Lawrence 7 times. I think Sam Darnold, who's only thrown 1 interception this year, is absolutely an underrated quarterback, right? Everybody's talking about Baker Mayfield MVP, Jared Goff getting all the talk. Patrick Mahomes is always in that mix, but no one's talking about Sam Darnold. So keep an eye on them for Monday night. They have 5 straight Monday Night Football wins and covers. I think they make this one 6. And I'm going to take Minnesota coming off their bye after spending 2 weeks in London. I think there are some real problems in Philadelphia. I think Saquon Barkley's hurt more than they're telling us. I think Jalen Hurts cannot get on the same page as his receivers. And after a loss, what did the Eagles do? They lose again, 7-14 against the spread following a loss. And now you want to lay points on the road with this team? Oh, you love the narratives. Carson Wentz versus his former team, anyone? And then last but not least, I like Dallas. 6-2 straight up, 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 versus the Commies. Terry McLaurin is hurt. We're hoping we get CeeDee Lamb back in the mix for the Cowboys. And Clay, did you know, I had to look this up because I said there's no way. This is the number 1 in total offense team, the Cowboys. Number 3 in scoring, 29.7 points per game. And the craziest thing about those offensive numbers is 4 of their 6 games so far have been on the road. I think Dak Prescott maybe should be able to get in the MVP conversation, except for he has an awful defense. And so they're never going to get him in that mix. Speaking of awful defenses, the Commanders also have one. I like Dallas to get the road or to get the win at home.
All right, let's go to college football. Friday night. Again, this is a Friday night game. You and I both like Louisville on the road against Miami. Nearly a 2-touchdown underdog, Louisville is. They're coming off of a tough overtime loss to Virginia, sitting at 4-1. Miami, I was at the game against Florida State. They put it away early, late rise from FSU to try to keep it close. I just think Miami is due for a challenge. As good as they have been, I don't think they're going to waltz through the entirety of the ACC with no challenges at all. This is the kind of game that has crept up on Mario Cristobal's Hurricanes throughout his tenure there. It feels to me like Louisville is the underdog play on the road in South Florida Friday night.
Yeah, I'll be on them. Look, you mentioned Miami and what a great season they're having, right? 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the spread. And if you look at their schedule, everybody goes, well, they played a top 10 schedule. Notre Dame, fine. We could argue that Notre Dame is probably a little bit better than who we saw week 1. South Florida, fine. Florida State. I think everybody needs to pump the brakes here. I think Louisville has went through some growing pains this year because they had cluster injuries on offense, but I think Jeff Brom is the better coach here. I think he's going to be able to draw up an offensive game plan that is going to be able to throw this Canes defense off their game plan. By the way, the road team has won and covered the last 3 meetings. Friday night in Coral Gables. I'm taking the points. I'm even going to take a little bit on the money line.
All right, let me give you some SEC games because there are a ton of really good ones in the SEC. And reminder, I interviewed Lane Kiffin for the Ole Miss Georgia game. It'll be on Big Noon. If you were starting off your Saturday, you can see my cherubic face there. All right, let me hit you with some of these, Kelly. Todd Furman, our buddy, had a great stat going all the way back to 1977, unless he's corrected it. He was unable to find Vanderbilt being favored in a top 25 matchup in the SEC. Vanderbilt is a 2.5-point favorite over LSU. I love the Commodores here, Kelly. LSU's offense is just not good. We have seen enough to know that that is true. Doesn't mean they might not score some points against Vanderbilt because I think Vanderbilt has some defensive issues. But offensively, this Commodore team behind Diego Pavia can score points. Should be an electric environment in Nashville. And I think Vanderbilt's going to win this game by double digits. And I'm not saying they're going to, put up 50 points or anything like that, but I feel like they can get to 28. I'm not sure that LSU is going to get to 20. I like Vanderbilt to cover the 2.5 to win this one. Oklahoma, South Carolina. We talked about this game last week with Oklahoma, Texas. I think Oklahoma got exposed a little bit. John Mateer's a great player. I'm not sure they have a lot of offensive horses around him. South Carolina is not great, but they've already lost 3 games. They're playing at home. It's Cocktober, and they have a great home field advantage. I think it's a low scoring. I like the under. I like South Carolina plus 5.5 points. A&M, Arkansas, I like this to be a track meet. A&M may score 50 points on Arkansas. Bobby Petrino's trying to get the job at Arkansas. He's going to score points over 61.5. Ole Miss, Georgia. I mentioned I was in Oxford earlier this week. I like Georgia. We talked about this a little bit. I think they're just way better, Kelly. They've got the revenge factor. I know you don't like revenge, but I think Georgia takes down Ole Miss by double digits. I also like the under. I think they're going to stifle this Ole Miss offense. And then I like Mississippi State plus nearly 10 against Florida. Sounds like Billy Napier may be on his way out based on all the reports. I'm not willing to favor the Gators over by 10 over anybody in the SEC with that offense and their inconsistency. I bet all the SEC games. Texas and Kentucky, I like the under. I think Texas will basically take all of the air out of the Kentucky offense to the extent there is any there. I think Bama will blow out Tennessee, winning by 10 points or more. The Tennessee defense, I am troubled by. They can't stop the run. They have been very poor against Mississippi State and Arkansas back-to-back games. And then my blood bank guarantee, tap the veins, boys and girls. Auburn finally gets a win over Mizzou. I think I basically bet every single SEC game this week. And so those are all of them. Do you like any of these SEC games? Do you agree or disagree with me on any of them?
We're basically on the same page for every single game, except for I think I like your Vols. And it is Wednesday afternoon. I have not bet this game yet. And I know Bama laying single digits seems real enticing right here. Home team out for revenge. I'm going to look at that one a little bit deeper because Bama 16-2 straight up, and they've covered 13 of the last 19 meetings, right? So when I'm looking for dogs, Clay, I'm looking for ones that can win outright. And I'm not sure Tennessee has that ability. I do think Ty Simpson is
what do
a
you
solid
think this line? What do you think this line should be? I'll get into you breaking down the game because obviously I've watched every game, every snap basically of Tennessee and Alabama all year. What does your number tell you it should be? Because Bama's around 8.5 as we are talking on Wednesday afternoon.
So I had a buddy ask me last week, what's the line? I said 14. He said, no way. I said, well, the game of the year line, 11.5. We started kind of digging in deep. I was shocked to see this one at 8. I was absolutely shocked. I think this Vols team is much better. They're putting up 48 points a game with Aguilar, 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I know Ty Simpson is better, but I'm just not sure that I think this Tide team is as good as we've seen. You and I spoke about this last week and how that cream rising to the top has now just been completely flipped upside down. And everybody in the SEC has top players because you're no longer waiting on the bench to play for a Nick Saban or a Kirby Smart. Now you want to play now, and those kids want to get their bag, as they like to say. And I do think that that benefits those middle ground SEC teams, your team included. I know you don't want to hear that, but I would put them as a top 4 or 5 SEC team. But you know what you guys do have? A lot of money. That means you can pay NIL towards a lot of different players. And I think the talent level has really started to create a lot less parity in the SEC. That's what I'm kind of getting at with these teams. We said last week, I was like, hey, I'm too late. I can't bet Mizzou. 3 in the hook was the right side. 3 was a push. Now Alabama off that rock fight versus them now has to play Tennessee, who's got a solid defensive game plan. I think it's going to be a really good game. That's the reason why I'm going, wait, this line is short. I'm looking right now, 8.5. I really want to make a case for the Vols here. I'm not sure Alabama is as good, at least from a power ratings perspective, as the market's trying to say they are.
My concern is the defense. I think Tennessee will go out and score enough to win a normal game. I like Joey Aguilar. I like the talent at wide receiver. Tennessee's got a good offensive line, talented core of running backs. They haven't been able to stop the run. And the linebacker play to me, and I'm not an X's and O's guy, it looks suspect for Tennessee. I'm also not in love with Tennessee either gets sacks or they give up double-digit gains. I've never seen anything like it, Kelly. I think Tennessee is either second and third most sacks in college football right now. Usually when you're creating a lot of sacks, that means you have a pretty good defense. Tennessee, either it's very boom or bust. They're either getting a negative yard play or they're giving up a first down. And on the road, Josh Heupel has not been great.
Yep.
I would love more than anything, trust me, for Tennessee to beat Alabama for a third time in 4 years. I would pay a huge sum of money for that to happen. I just don't see it happening. And so we will see. What other games out there? Any
quick,
others that you love in college? Yeah.
I'm going to add one thing because this is exactly probably what you just said and what I just found is going to probably talk me off this. Josh Heupel 1-6 straight up as a road underdog. Vol's offense will struggle on the road more significantly. They're putting up 43 points per game dating back to last season, 510 yards per game at home versus 27 points per game and 374 on the road. That is significantly different between being on the road and at home. So you're probably right. You may have just talked me off Tennessee. Here's my one concern. I don't think they're going to fire Billy Napier prior to Mississippi State, right? They have a bye week on deck.
Yeah.
Knowing you're going to get fired, it's got to be a pretty crappy feeling, but I thought he was going to get fired after the USF game. Here's a Mississippi State team that I think is not only one of the best ATS teams in the country dating back to the middle of last season, but they have shown promise that they want to fight and play hard, right? They took your Tennessee team to overtime as a 7.5 point underdog. They had the outright win over Arizona State to start the season, and they run the football. So I do think they're going to eat up a ton of clock here. Yes, the Gators defense has never been my issue. My problem has always been DJ Lagway in this offense. And he may be good for a pick against this Bulldogs defense here. And I love getting over a touchdown here in the swamp with all of these situations combined. I don't know if I think Mississippi State can win this game outright. And that is my one concern here. I'd like to think that they're going to put up a really good fight doing so, though.
What else do you like in the college football weekend? We agreed on Louisville. We talked off air about some of these other games, but what jumps out to you? What do you love the most?
I'm looking to bet against Chanel Moore once again here in Michigan. Michigan as a favorite always seems to get a ton of love in the marketplace, and I don't really understand it. This is a Washington team that I bet against a couple of weeks ago on the road. I said, hey, they don't do well on the East Coast time zone, but this is still a team named Michigan, right? Like some of that stuff matters. It doesn't matter when you're playing a Maryland team, but when you're playing a big boy team named Michigan, kids are tending to give you all they've got. And so I'm trying to make a case for Washington here in Ann Arbor, which is a very tough place to win. I was on the Huskies in this exact same situation a few years ago. They were catching 8 points, and I was in the big house, and Michigan ran all over them. They're 61-10 straight up at home in the last 11 years. And that is why I'm going, all right, can this team win? 0-3 against the spread and trips out east has not been great, but I do think we get the most from this Washington team. I have not been impressed with Michigan offensively. We talk so much about Arch Manning. What about Bryce Underwood? Is he a bust? He looks more like a bust than Arch Manning does to me. I think that there's some argument there that maybe they're just 18, 19 years old and need a little bit more time to develop in college football. That being said, I was trying to make a case for Washington here early in the week. Let me see if I got anything else on my list. Maryland.
I've got Washington,
Clay.
by the way. We agree. We agree on
Okay.
Washington. I bet Washington plus the points. I just don't think it's one thing if Michigan were like a 3-point favorite, 2.5. I would look at it and say, okay, they're at home. The Michigan offense, Kelly, hasn't convinced me that they should be favored. I mean, look, Washington is 5-1. Their only loss is Ohio State. I haven't seen anything that makes me think Michigan should be a substantial favorite over them. So we're on the same side there. You were about to talk about UCLA going up against Maryland.
Yeah, come on, UCLA back-to-back underdog winner. I cannot believe I did not take them versus Michigan State last week. I looked at that and going, Michigan State minus 8.5. What am I thinking? And of course, Nico. Yeah, well, Nico might have met his match in this Maryland game. Maryland last week got the cover for us, had multiple opportunities to beat Nebraska and couldn't get it done. I can't quit this team. I love this offense. I think Malik Washington is an excellent quarterback. if the defense could just help them out a little bit. I think this could be an absolute and utter shootout there in the Rose Bowl. We'll see how it ends up playing out, but I can't quit this Maryland team. I really like what we've seen to them again. Lost by small margins in Nebraska, week before to Washington. UCLA, yes, they opened up 0-3. Yes, they fired their head coach. But let's not forget, somehow, yes. So here's the problem. They do not strike me as this team that's just completely turned a corner. I think that they still have some volatility. Vegas marching out Bruins -3, I think tells you all you need to know.
We're flipping because I'm going to bail on my beloved Maryland Terrapins, who have led us to several victories so far this season, and I am going to jump on the Nico with the new coaching staff bandwagon. So what about SC Notre Dame? You have a read on that one? It's another big one out there. This is a big number for Notre Dame. And I know SC's coming off what was a huge win for Lincoln Riley over Michigan. They won that game, had control of it throughout. I don't understand why Notre Dame would be a double-digit favorite here. So I'm taking SC. I understand I may get slapped around in this one, but SC's 5-1. This is effectively a playoff game, I think, for both teams. If Notre Dame loses, they're out. If SC loses, I don't buy the fact that they're going to run the table the rest of the way. I think they're giving up the playoff ghost here, too. So plus 9.5, I feel like I'm getting a good number.
Look, I can see why you like the Trojans, Clay. I'm just looking on paper, right? You have a quarterback, once again, for USC, Lincoln Riley. We expect that, right? Here's the problem. USC, third trip east this season. They lost outright at Illinois. I gave you guys that underdog winner. They struggled again at Purdue. And since joining the Big Ten, USC 2-5 straight up and 1-6 against the spread in road games with 5 outright losses as a favorite. So when I saw this line too, I thought, oh boy, am I going to be on the Trojans? And I started looking into it a little bit more. Notre Dame looked like they had a shaky start to start the season, right? But now that we look back, we say, okay, well, Miami's undefeated, A&M's undefeated. And since those 2 losses, this defense has only allowed 27 points over the last 3 weeks versus Arkansas, Boise State, and NC State. I know why USC is going to be a popular underdog, and I am not some chalk-eating weasel, so I will not be on the Irish. I just kind of am concerned they may be that popular underdog that could get blown out this week.
All right. What else is out there? I like, by the way, Iowa. I think Penn State's going to get whipped solidly at Kinnick Stadium. They never played very well. Iowa's a tough place to go. I think this Penn State team is rocked over James Franklin not being there. I know this is one of those situations where the team can show up. Like I thought Arkansas played the best game of the season. UCLA played their best game of the season coming out of the head coach being fired and much of the coaching staff being replaced. So this is a little bit of a tough universe to project because these are young kids and sometimes a fresh start is what they need and everybody comes out without pressure and they play kind of the best version of themselves. I don't think we're going to see that. So I like Iowa. That's a little bit of a psychological play in addition to Iowa being a tough place to play. What about Texas Tech? You're a Big 12 fan. Are you buying their big favorites on the road against Arizona State? Arizona State got whipped. Also, BYU hosting Utah, the Holy War there. There's some interesting games going on in the Big 12 too.
Yeah, look, unbeaten Texas Tech, 7th straight win by double digits. Do you want to step in front of that freight train? Is Sam Leavitt going to be playing this week? I think he's still questionable, so keep an eye there as well. I would love to step in front of Texas Tech. That is like such a quintessential Kelly play. Like, oh, look at this team's getting too many points. Let me see if I can get ran over by this train. But the reality is I'm not willing to do it. Texas Tech is the team that I said at 12-1 to start the season, they're my pick to win the Big 12. So right now I'm kind of sitting in the driver's seat, feeling a little smart. I hope they don't lose this game outright, yes. But is it too many points? Certainly. It's way too many points. And as the season progresses, you're going to continue to pay more for these teams at a premium. The Miamis, the Texas A&Ms, the Texas Techs, when those teams are rolling over their opponents, you're going to see that notch. We saw it with Indiana versus Iowa a couple weeks ago. Too many points. Then Indiana getting no respect because of Oregon. Ends up getting the outright win. So keep in mind that you will pay a premium if you want to bet Texas Tech. But part of me doesn't blame you. I haven't seen anything from Arizona State that has impressed me whatsoever.
We'll see. They got whipped pretty solid. Do you have a Holy War take? As Utah is about a 3-point favorite on the road at BYU in a sneaky, awesome rivalry that it's a late kick. Maybe some of you are going to be trying to make up money. I didn't bet it yet because I was a little bit nervous about both teams. BYU's undefeated, the only other undefeated team alongside of Texas Tech in the Big 12. And obviously Utah, other than the loss to Texas Tech, has been very impressive this year.
Yeah, Utah lost 2 straight after when they won 9 in a row versus this BYU team. So BYU's finally gotten their number, right? And it's been interesting since Utah's joined the Big 12. You know, they bitched and moaned about it the entire time, calling the Big 12 a truck stop conference, and here they are, just middle of the road. BYU is, I think, a really good team. And I think they've been really interesting, especially from a home field advantage standpoint in Provo. 6-0 plus 184 yards per game. But they haven't covered 2 of their last 3. They probably should have lost Arizona last week. So kind of keep in mind there, they're getting a little bit of love for a win that they maybe didn't deserve. If we're just looking on paper, Utah, better pass rush, better offensive line, probably better quarterback. If I have to pick, I would lay it with Utah. We'll see. I don't know. That's a great game, but there's just not a lot of value there for me. And I'm just not that impressed with Utah overall, but I don't think there's any value here on BYU.
Anything else you have on your roster for the weekend coming up? And by the way, as you check, we've got the OutKick show that will be on FS1 at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight. And then I will be on Sean Hannity tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. So FS1 and Fox News later tonight there, plus Big Noon on Saturday. All right. Kelly.
When does your ESPN show start, Clay? Because I think every single person that texted me about it did not understand your joke. My mother and your mother included.
Yeah, my mom texted me thinking that I was going to be going to ESPN. So I thought everybody would immediately know when I said, thanks to Bob Iger for being such a big fan, and Disney and ESPN. I thought everybody would know that that was a total joke. But a lot of people just took it seriously. So I do not have a show coming on ESPN, Mom, and Kelly's mom. That is not on the way. I showed, Kelly said that her mom was unsure. My mom also texted me like, so do you have a show now on ESPN? No, I do not have an ESPN show. I do have an FS1 show, which is tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then I'll be on Big Noon on Fox and FS1 interviewing Lane Kiffin, as well as tonight on Sean Hannity for your mom and my mom who want to set their television viewing accordingly.
I love it. Sorry, Clay. There's not a lot that I love this week in college football. Light card. I gotta still dig around here on this Wednesday evening and see if I can find me another underdog that has a shot to win outright.
All right. We love all of you. We'll be back next Thursday with another episode of The Fade. I will be on Clay and Buck, like I just said, basically every show under the sun over the next few days. We love you guys. Hopefully you will make some money. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. I am Clay Travis. She is Kelly Stewart, a.k.a. Kelly in Vegas. And this has been The Fade.